The American Persimmon, Diospyros virginiana. On the Janka scale, it registers 2,300 pounds of force to halfway embed an 11mm steel ball. For reference, red oak is a little under 1,300 pounds of force. It's hard stuff. Against my better judgment, I decided to try turning a bowl. See, a few videos ago, I turned some chisel handles out of persimmon and swore I'd never turn it again. But some viewers urged me to give it another go, so I did. I started by cutting a 5-inch thick blank with my chainsaw, then found a circle with the biggest yield and incorporated the crotch of the tree to give some compression figure to the finished bowl. In this case, just under 12 inches, which pretty much maxes out my lathe. After drawing out the circle, I made sure to mark my center point and drilled a hole for mounting a wormwood screw. Then I took it to the bandsaw to rough cut my circle. After the bandsaw, I took it over to the lathe and installed the blank onto the wormwood screw, only to find out I hadn't taken enough care cutting a perfect circle and the blank bottomed out on the ways, so I had to trim some more off. Whenever I'm turning on the lathe for the first time with a new blank, I always stay well clear of the piece of wood in case it's more out of balance than I think and wants to jump off the lathe, hitting me in the head. My lathe's slowest starting speed is 600 RPMs, which is a little faster than I'm comfortable with when roughing out big bowls. I like to rough out the outside of bowls using a bowl gouge with an Irish grind on it. For these cuts, I point the flute of the tool around 45 degrees to the ceiling and try to ride the bevel of the tool through the cut. Persimmon dulls my tools faster than anything I've ever turned. I can usually tell when the tool is getting dull when the cut is getting slow. I have to use more force to get into the cut, or the tool just doesn't want to stay in the cut. Luckily, my friends at Grizzly just sent me their 10-inch wet grinder. Now, I'm used to using my 3,800 RPM grinder with a jig to sharpen this Irish grind, and I'd have to take special care not to let the steel get too hot, but with this 110 RPM tool, I found it easier to find the bevel freehand, and the water keeps the steel cool so I don't have to worry about heat, making it less of a pain when I have to sharpen in the middle of turning. I prefer using a recess to hold the bottom of the bowl for hollowing it out, so to make the recess for the chuck jaws to expand in, I moved the tailstock and used a parting tool to cut a slightly angled groove. Then I flipped the bowl around. I used my bowl gouge to give me a good flat reference around where the rim of the bowl was going to be, but before hollowing, it was time to sharpen again. This time I decided to see if I could tell the difference if I used the stropping wheel. While it made it pretty shiny, it's really hard to tell in persimmon, but it gave me some nice ribbons with both a scraping cut and a shearing cut. I wasn't ready to pull the tailstock back, but it was getting in the way of my bowl gouge as I got deeper into the bowl, so I switched to a scraper. I wasn't paying attention to the shavings. Instead of getting ribbons, I was getting chips. Holy shit. After doing a bodily injury assessment, cleaning up my pants, and determining the bowl wasn't a projectile, I turned off the lathe and sharpened my scraper. I want to take a minute to thank the sponsor of this video, Grizzly Industrial. They were nice enough to send me this grinder to try out, and I really like it. It's on sale right now during their summer sale for $150, and if you use the coupon code WALKER10, they'll take another 10% off at checkout. It's a pretty sweet deal. Once I removed enough waste and weight from the bowl, I was confident I could pull the tailstock back and finish hollowing with my bowl gouge. Getting into the bottom of bowls is tricky. Ideally, I'd have a dedicated bowl gouge with a steeper bevel to get a cleaner cut in the bottom, but I make do with what I've got. When it's time for sanding, I take the bowl through the grits, starting with 100 grit and finishing with 500 grit, lubricated with a beeswax mineral oil finish I make. If you'd be interested to see a video on how I make my food safe finish, let me know in the comments and I might make a video on it. I was really excited to see there's some chatoyancy in the bowl. That cat's eye effect I talk about sometimes. So pretty. But a bowl isn't just for looking pretty, it was time to put it to use. A cool thing about this grinder is you can get all sorts of different accessories for it, like this knife sharpening jig. After using the angle guide to figure out the bevel, I gave my Santoku knife a few passes over the stone, then the stropping wheel. Fellas, if you need a good excuse to get your wife on board with another tool purchase, this is a pretty good one. I'll put a link to the grinder in the description. I'm definitely not an expert bowl turner. This would only be my 18th bowl so far. Persimmon is my least favorite wood to turn. It's hard, it's heavy, and you have to sharpen often. But in our household, we have a long-standing family dinner time most every night, and I'm proud to add this bowl to the collection of cookware that I've made for our family. And this bowl is now our dedicated family dinner salad bowl. So, I guess that makes it worth it.
So, how's your day?
Thanks for watching.